All right, so in the previous video, we created 3 pages. Well, we pulled these things out into their own pages. So we have the home page, which is nothing, and then we have slash favorite video games, which pulls that up, and then we have my schedule, which pulls this up. So how do we, I don't want to have to manually type this stuff all the time. So what I would like to do is actually link to these different things here. Let's go to the home page here and we'll create links for all of these things. So let's create something at the top here that's going to link them. There's a few different ways to do this. Let's use a table for simplicity. It'll just be a table body and one row. Then we'll have our 3 cells in here. So we'll say this is home. This is my favorite video games. And this is my schedule. All right. So if I go back to the home page here, I have my 3 things here. They're not links yet, so let's turn those into links. And if you remember from your intro to HTML, we use anchor tags for that, A tags. For home, we just do slash. Sorry, not a source, a href. Sources for images. A href, home. And then let's go ahead and just copy this out twice. Close these A tags here. And we're using relative paths because when we deploy this, it won't be localhost anymore. So we want to use relative pathing. So it'll work even when we deploy it to the internet. Favorite video games and my schedule. Okay, so now these are all links. If I click home, it goes here. If I click my favorite video games, it goes here. If I go back and click here, it goes here. Now this is fine to use, particularly if you're doing external links, like if I'm linking to my GitHub or something like that. However, when we're doing internal linking, it's preferred to use the Next.js link component. And this is our first exposure to a custom component. Import link from next/link. Now, custom components will behave often just like regular components. They'll always be capitalized. And when you use them in VS Code, they will turn green. So I am going to change all of these A's to link with a capital L. Link, 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 and then all of these /A's to /link. /link and /link. And what does this do? Well, same thing. Same thing. So why bother? The reason we want to use link, especially for internal links, is because it maintains state. This means that, let's say I have a login system and my user logs in on the home page, and then they click over to this page, they will still be logged in on this page. As long as I have state management, global state management, that will be maintained. And the reason why that's maintained is because of layout.tsx, because every page is being routed through layout.tsx. So if I have a global state that wraps around those child pages, it will maintain my state across my app, which is very, very nice when we get into more complex things, especially involving user input. So it's just good practice. We're only going to be using link instead of the A tag for internal links. So that's a big thing. But the other thing is now I've lost. How do I go back to the home? I have to use the back button. That's kind of terrible, right? Shouldn't I have access to these same links even if I'm in this page? So what should I do? Should I just copy and paste this table to all of my other components? That's a lot of repeated code, right? So why don't we create a custom component of our own? We've just used the link component, which is a built-in custom component included in Next Link, but we can make our own link or our own custom component and use that. So I'm going to cut this table out here with Control X. Now it's gone. Bye-bye. Now in my source folder, I'm going to create a folder called components. Notice I don't put this in my app folder. I put it in my source folder. And that's because I don't want it getting mixed up with my endpoints of my pages. So the components folder will create a new component called header table or something like that, .tsx. Now, when you name component, you use camel case for the file name. Lowercase h, capital T. But when I'm exporting it, export default function, and I name my function, it has to be capitalized. What do they call this? Not snake case, Pascal case or something like that. You just capitalize every word. Header table, and then I'm going to return the same table that we created. But we got a red squiggly. What's the red squiggly for? It's because we need to import link. That's fine. So let's go ahead and import link here. That also means we can delete the link from the other one. So now let's go back to page.tsx. We can delete this, but instead we're going to import that header table. So import header table. It will sort of auto-populate. Now I like this. There's two different ways that it will present. Sometimes it will be dot. In this case, I think it would be dot to go up a directory and then find it. I like this. This is an absolute path relative to the source folder. So this, when you put @ it's going to check the source folder and then try to find that components folder inside there. This relative pathing is really good for these page module CSS because those are always going to be in the same folder as the page. But for components, I like to use the components header table. So now we have this header table here. Delete this. And I am going to include this new component that I created. And we're going to put it right here. And we just do header table. And this is a self-enclosing component, which means it doesn't have anything that's passed into it. It doesn't have any child props. Everything is contained in that component. So the self-enclosing component, save that. And now look at that, it reappeared here. And why is that better? So now if I want to add that to my other pages, I simply go here, import header table, and we do the same thing. Header table here, self-enclosing, and then we go to my schedule and we do it one more time. Here. Self-enclosing. And just like that, every single one of my pages now has that same header table that we created. So custom components are awesome because they're reusable. We can use them in different files at different times. I think that's good for this one. To recap, we discussed using the link, next link, not here, next link, next/link, link component to create our hyperlinks, relative hyperlinks. And then we used custom components to create a custom component and import that into all of our pages.